Hello, good afternoon. Welcome once again to this episode of the Last Trip Africa podcast. My name is Alex Taremwa. I'm sitting in for Bella Twine, who is the usual host, and Francis Samokule, as usual, is behind the production. On this series, we are interviewing people who are doing amazing work in the climate change space. The theme we've called that series is Your Hand in Combating Climate Change. This series is brought to you by Africa No Filter, the MasterCard Foundation, and the Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors Group. Today, I am privileged to host one of the amazing ladies in Uganda who's trailblazing the area of plastic recycling. Her name is Faith Aweko. She's the CEO and founder of Reform Africa. I've met Faith in a series of conversations, and she's been featured in so many media stories, both locally and globally. And I'm privileged to have her on the show today. Faith, you're most welcome to the Last Africa podcast. How are you today? I'm well. It's a pleasure that you made the time to join us. Just to sort of catch you up, this theme, Your Hand in Combating Climate Change, features people like yourself who are doing amazing work, not just in Uganda, but also in Africa, to try and overturn the deficit of climate change and its hazards as we've come to see them. The other day, when it rained, I think it was on Monday, and there was a lot of flooding in Kampala. And I remember when we were in Nairobi, you said one of the areas that gave you inspiration to start this social enterprise called Reform Africa was because of that one night when you woke up and it was raining and you spent the most part of it trying to get the water out of the house. Would you take us back on memory lane and paint for us how that night was for you?
Okay, so I grew up in one of the slum areas here in Kampala, that is Naguru go down. And every time it rains, our houses and the whole neighborhood would flood, of course, due to the heavy rains. But later on, I realized it's not just because of the heavy rains, but it's because of the poor waste management in the area. Because every time it rains is when my family and people around would dispose plastic in the trenches. And we all know the plastic bags, the caveras, clog the trenches. So this caused the recurring flooding. Not take away the fact that, of course, one of the causes of flooding is poor waste management, but also poor planning. Last Monday, when it rained, most of the places that were flooding were the ones that in Lugogo, years back, that used to be a swampy area. So most cases, there is no drainage or there is no proper drainage. And of course, the water always has particular places where it passes. So it doesn't matter if you build and restructure unless you really have proper drainage, which we do not have here in Uganda. It is difficult. And for also the proper drainage that the government, of course, has really done its best. If you see in Bwaise, the drainage channels are really quite big, but you find they are filled with sand, plastic bottles and plastic bags because of lack of sensitization, especially when they are building the drainage channels, to really sensitize people about the poor waste management in the areas, or to even provide waste management services direct to people. Because if you find most of those places in the slum areas, if you look at Bwaise or even Naguru, the trucks don't reach deep down to pick the waste. And because people mix up organic and inorganic waste together, it becomes really heavy to lift it, because they are required to bring it by the roadside. But most cases, the roadside is quite far, or by the market side where KCCA picks up. So people just resort to disposing the waste in the trenches, not knowing that, because for them, in their mind, they think if I pour this waste in the trench, it's going to go away. But it really actually doesn't go far. When the plastic bags close the trenches, there is flooding.
Okay. And like an entrepreneur, at what point did you see that waste as an opportunity to create an enterprise that now is Reform Africa?
That was in 2018. Around 2017, I think that was around September, I joined an entrepreneurship academy to learn about business, because I was doing something totally different. I was making jewelry and clothing out of like from scratch. And then I just wanted to just better my entrepreneurship skills and craft, because a friend had recommended that I would go for such a program to really like polish what I do. So when I went there, I got introduced to a totally different world of social entrepreneurship, which I really had no idea about. So I learned about social entrepreneurship. I learned about solving problems and, also using our past challenges and turning them into opportunities. So that is how in 2018 I started to research about flooding in Uganda with a case study of Kampala. And I realized, there is more to flooding, there is plastic pollution. And then, it just hit me back to realize I was actually part of the problem.
I know that the drainage channels in Kampala have continued to be one of the major contributors to the flooding in Kampala. And we have had several back and forth with the government, with the players like NEMA, campaigns by KCCA on recycling, cleaning up all these drainage channels, but we still don't get much success from that area. There's been a ban on Kavera, the plastic bag, I think twice or thrice, as far as I can recall, but if I walked out of this building, it's probably the first thing I will encounter. How have you navigated that area to try and create amazing products like I've seen some of your bags from this trash? My friend calls it cash from trash.
Yeah, cash from trash. Yeah, adding value to trash. So I think, of course, yes, NEMA has really and continues to do amazing work. But I think where they fail is to involve actually people, maybe like Reform Africa, or people who are directly involved with the waste, because people just do not understand if you tell them plastic takes 500 years to decompose, so everyone will be like, oh, I'll really be dead, even maybe my kids and grandkids will be dead. So it's nothing much, but we have to try and explain it, not the harder way, but the simplest way, and break it down to people. From the moment you drink the water bottle, then it starts to decompose slowly. By the time it is, those years, it's already in smaller particles. But again, also, as you can see, we see that water, like on the plastic bottles, it has an expiry date, but water really doesn't expire. But of course, it's because the plastic bottle is toxic. And then also people don't get to understand that, because I've seen people reusing, like those ladies reuse and put juice in the plastic bottles, which is really dangerous because they've just picked it off the streets. Not because it is dirty, but if, of course, plastic is left out there in the heat, it's now actually very toxic. So people need to understand, we need to explain to people more in those terms, and then also adding value to trash. It takes time to sensitize people, but again, if you can incentivize them with the plastic bottles that you bring out, or the plastic bags you bring, then you pay them a decent income, I think then people would really see that there is value in trash, and everyone would want to even like pick any trash out there, even if it's not their trash. So that means even people who have their trash would want to keep it. And then also showcasing innovations around plastics, so that people can really get to see what can be made, and also providing alternatives to there is campaigns of Kavera, but they are not providing alternatives to the plastic straws or to the plastic. So really providing alternatives, and because plastic is a very cheaper material, and even if you buy a slice of watermelon for 500, they'll still give you a plastic bag. So that is how we know it is cheap.
Okay, so let's talk about the innovation that you have created from these plastic bags. I'm just going to ask my producer to pass me your bag. One of the amazing products that you've come up with, I'm sure it's not the only one. I've seen smaller travel bags, so tell us about the wide range of products that you guys do at Reform Uganda, Reform Africa, the prices of how much these are, where people can find them, and what goes into the production process of this, so that if you inspire someone out there to also do something similar somewhere, what's the mechanics of putting such together?
I'll start with the first question. Our products ranges from 10,000 to 100,000. So we do have varieties of bags. We majorly do produce bags, but we also do other custom items. So we do have toiletry bags, wallets, school bags, backpacks, travel bags, gym bags, and we also take customized orders of bags as well. And we do work with women who collect plastic from the landfill. You might be asking, of course, why work with women, but the biggest percentage, 80% of waste pickers at the landfills are women. We do work with women who are collecting the plastics, they sort for us, and then it's brought to our production place where we wash, heat press the plastic to a sustainable material. We heat press between 15 to 30 plastic bags, depending on what we are going to make. And that is what is used for making our bags and different accessories. And we also work with youths who have trained, not necessarily trained, they already know how to make the bags, so we just polish their skills, and then they are the ones who design and make the bags.
What do you feel has been the impact of yourself and your organization in the communities where you do this work? You just mentioned the jobs that you create now in the value chain, but on the grand scale of things, for example, in the recycling space, what do you feel has been your impact thus far?
On job creation, of course, the first person providing a job for myself, but also providing a livelihood for the women and the youths that we work with. Knowing that my livelihood and the livelihood of the people that we work with entirely depends on the success of the business. For every bag that we produce that is plastic, that has been single-use plastic that has been given a second life, and each bag carries a story, and just helping to reduce plastic that ends up in the landfill, and also really trying to provide innovative ways of how to deal with plastic pollution.
On a larger scale, you have achieved some success with your social enterprise, raised some good amounts of money. What do you feel is your vision for the organization now? Where do you want it to grow into? Have you thought about crossing maybe borders to do some work in other African countries, maximize the impact within Uganda before you can?
Being a center of education to the world, maybe Uganda, because for every bag, like I said, that we make, it carries a story. So people really get to see that there is value in trash, and they can innovate solutions around environmental sustainability, so that we can move away from a linear economy to a more circular economy where all the waste is recycled, but using recycled materials. We would, of course, want to maximize the impact here in Uganda, but also have our doors open for other people to come and learn about recycling and innovation. And we want to be an innovative space in the future where, we are innovating solutions around environmental sustainability. Currently, we are working with plastic bags, the caveras, but of course we also want to move to recycling the harder plastic and really see what products can be made.
Enough about the plastics. Let's get some insight about you as a person. What keeps you with the fire burning? What gives you the impetus to wake up in the morning and keep doing this work that most people would say is not exactly the most interesting? You could be chilling, slaying, like they call it. What drives that passion within you to continue doing not so clean work?
I think my innovative mindset, I just love how my mind thinks, or what goes in my mind. And because at the university I studied economics and statistics, and I've had to drop out of my internship because I just couldn't see myself not using my creative mindset or my hands to innovate. I also do design 95% of the patterns of the bags, because I just find, my mind is always just thinking. And one thing, of course, that keeps my creative spark is colors, looking at buildings and symmetry. For me, it just expounds my mind more.
And one of the biggest strengths that Faith has, leveraging on social media as a platform to push not just her work but her products as well. I would encourage you to use this time to find Faith Aweko on all social media platforms and give her a follow. Reform Africa as well. We are Last Stop Africa on all platforms too, so check us out. Our website is laststopafrica.org. We have so many other episodes going on. Last week we interviewed good people at Chira Motors who are doing amazing work in the e-mobility space. If you missed that episode, you can still find it on our platforms. For now, as we close, I have to ask you one more question, Faith. If you met regular teenager, I'm not going to say girl boy, but regular teenager in Uganda, and they asked you what they would do to help the environment recover faster, what would you tell them? What is the quickest accessible climate solution that they can do without having to spend money?
I think usually what I tell teenagers is to, there is no planet B. There is no planet B, but also really be keen when you are given, if you go to a supermarket, do I need all the 10 caveras? Because we have a tendency of, if you buy soap, oil, this, they'll put each and everything. Do I need all the 10 or do I need only one? And really try and so that is one way of avoiding unnecessary trash, but also open their mind to visit. Most teenagers do not know how a landfill looks like. Most of them think, plastic is picked from home, trash is picked from home and it is disposed. But if they can go and see how a landfill looks like, then maybe their choices would be different, to try and see that, and to also really get to understand. Of course, these are bigger terms for teenagers to really see, but we are recycling less than 1% of the plastic we produce in Uganda.
Well, that's a damning statistic. I have visited a landfill myself. If you're not initiated, this is a place where all the garbage that is collected from within wherever you live is taken, sorted, some decomposed, others turned into so many things. It's quite humbling if you visit places like that and see the people who work there, and every day they come try and find a livelihood because of the choices that we make in our mizigos somewhere in Chiwatele and Nigeria. So thank you for being part of this growing family. You can find our podcast wherever you find your podcasts, on Spotify, Apple, Google, now which is moving to YouTube Music, and on our website. Thank you to our sponsors, Africa No Filter, the Mastercard Foundation, and Rockefeller Philanthropy Group. My name has been Alex Tarema. We'll see you in the next episode, Out of That Place.